Good evening and welcome to the Nevis Newscast for today, Friday, September 25th, 2015. I am Bronte Swanston Hendrickson. Now for the news in detail. The main tender pier in Charlestown is currently undergoing extension work undertaken by St. Kitts Marine's Works. On completion of the project, the pier is expected to be able to accommodate bigger boats and cruise ships. Minister of Communications and Works, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, visited the site yesterday, September 24th, and expressed his satisfaction with the progress.
This morning is a major step in the progress of this phase of construction. We're pouring the first set of concrete this morning. As a matter of fact, the first, let's call it about 50 feet of pier would be poured this morning. We're looking at pouring just about 5,000 psi of concrete, which should take a couple of weeks to cure or to dry, and then thereafter we move on to the final 50 feet, which is the final phase. Work has progressed smoothly up to this point in time, and we are very happy with the progress we've made so far. The good thing is that the weather has been cooperative up to this point in time. We've had one or two delays, but we did set anywhere around the middle to the end of October to have this project completed, or this particular pier, and it seems like we're on track to have that done.
Minister Jeffers says his ministry hopes to have the extension completed for the upcoming cruise season.
So we are gearing up, as I said in previous interviews, to have this ready for the new cruise season, which starts somewhere around the middle to the end of October. So all being well, barring any major setback, we are hoping to have this up and running by that time, and the full amenities to be benefited from when it's all said and done.
Minister of Communications and Works, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers. The matter of geothermal development on Nevis is still very current and progressing steadily, so noted Premier the Honorable Vance Amory yesterday as he made the feature address at the NIA's 9th annual consultation on the economy.
Reason for making that statement is that it is not an easy sector to develop because there are unknowns, and the developers whom we've contracted to engage in the development of this source of energy, clearly, as all investors are, will be cautious and will seek to minimize their risks. And we as a government will also have, through our discussions and negotiations, seek to minimize our exposure, but also seek to maximize the benefits for the people of Nevis and the people of the Federation.
He also gave an update with respect to the progress of the power purchase agreement, which is being negotiated.
We have been provided with some assistance, technical assistance from the Caribbean Development Bank to help or to provide the expertise so that we are not railroaded in respect of the form which the PPA takes, and that the benefits for the people of Nevis are, as I said, maximized, while the developers get also a reasonable return on the investment for providing the expertise to develop the resource and provide it for our consumers.
The NIA, according to Premier Amory, is now seeking to develop its own cadre of professionals skilled in geothermal energy development.
On Sunday last, I had a meeting with the Ambassador High Commissioner of New Zealand, who in our discussions focused very heavily on the renewable energy as part of our developmental thrust, and in fact has offered training for the human resource, our people, to be involved in the maintenance and development of this renewable energy sector in New Zealand. So we have now to be very selective in whom we send, because we would want to ensure that we have the resource, we have the skills to deal with this here in Nevis.
Premier Amory also spoke to the federal government's intention to explore geothermal energy development on St. Kitts.
And while you would have heard that the federal government has engaged in has signed an MOU with a company out of Guadeloupe, Terranov, to explore for that energy in St. Kitts. It does not mean that this will be detrimental to Nevis, because we are 2 years ahead or more than that in terms of the exploration. And what will happen in St. Kitts would be a complementary development, so that together we may be able to provide a larger resource to a larger demand marketplace.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance, Colin Dorr, has described the state of Nevis's economy as improving steadily. He made the remark yesterday as he addressed the NIA's 9th annual consultation on the economy, reporting on the performance of the economy over the past year.
On the domestic front, we continue to experience increases in our revenue base. Total recurrent revenue collected for 2014 stood at 128.5 million, increasing by 5.79% when compared to the same period in 2013. Revenue collected for the first 6 months of 2015, and referring to recurrent revenue, amount to 70.0 million, surpassing the 62.8 million collected for the first 6 months of 2014. Based on this trend for 2015, it is anticipated that total revenue collected for 2015 will surpass that collected for the entire period last year.
Dorr noted that there also continues to be strong growth patterns in the non-tax revenue collections.
Noticeable areas of increases were seen in import duties, transfer taxes, revenues from the financial service sector, and also the value-added tax, VAT, which generated 3.1 million in the year 2014, representing approximately 1/3 of the total revenue collected for the entire period 2014 for the Nevis Island administration. These areas also continue to show increasing growth pattern for the first half of this current period.
According to Dorr, the tourism and construction sectors also continue to show signs of growth.
There is an 11% projected growth in tourism-related revenues for 2015 when compared to the same period in 2014. The construction sector is also showing signs of upward growth based on the data provided by the Physical Planning Department, with residential construction being the dominant area of concentration. The liquidity in the banking sector, coupled with the ongoing first-time homeowners program and the citizenship by investment program, continue to be the driving force behind the revitalization of the construction sector.
Dorr says further evidence of the economic turnaround can be seen in the increase in number of persons engaged in formal employment, driven mainly by increase in employment in the hotel and restaurant sector, construction, wholesale and retail trades, and public administration. Still to come, Department of Education hosts 7th annual Courts Reading Competition. We'll have the details after this break.
I always think of her, but then I always think of him too. He should have never forced himself on her. Help us stop the madness. If you know it, tell it. Tell 1-800-8477-TIPS.
Welcome back. 3 students from Nevis are among 11 recent primary school graduates who have been awarded the 2015 Social Security Susanna Lee High School Scholarship to assist in their academic quest at the secondary level. The program, which is in its 32nd year, is geared towards assisting students whose parents may have some degree of difficulty in providing adequate financial support for them during their studies in secondary school. This year's awardees are Jacqueline Clark of the Charlestown Secondary School, Charlene Myers and Steve Walters of the Gingerland Secondary, as well as Zanique Williams of the Charles E. Mills High School, Sabrina Narain, Washington Archibald High School, Shania Fleming, Bastyr High School, Jasimba Mitchum, Rezane Thomas and Razik Charles, Keon High School, Shoma Bowery, Sadler Secondary School, and Fikisha Garnett, Virchaz High School. The 11 students were recently presented with certificates by Minister responsible for Social Security, the Honorable Vance Amory. The Department of Education today hosted the local leg of the 7th Annual Quartz Reading Competition. Felicia Liebert has the details in this report.
Quartz Organization of the Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, in conjunction with the Ministry and the Department of Education, hosted the Nevis leg of the 7th Annual St. Kitts and Nevis Primary Schools Reading Competition at the St. Paul's Anglican Conference Room earlier today. Education Officer Teres Dorr delivered the opening remarks.
The Department of Education has once again partnered with Quartz to provide our children with an opportunity to showcase their reading skill. The 7th Annual OECS Quartz Reading Competition is slated for October 15, 2015. This competition assesses reading fluency, accuracy, enunciation, smoothness, confidence, and expression of participants. Each participant is expected to read 2 pieces, a narrative or story, and a news item. Today's zonal competition will see 2 winners emerging, one from Zone 1 this morning and one from Zone 2 this afternoon. These 2 winners will then travel to St. Kitts to participate in the local finals on Wednesday, 30th September. The overall winner chosen will go on to represent the Twin Island Federation in the OECS regional competition scheduled to take place in St. Lucia.
The 2015 Zone 1 participants were Maya Daswani of the Montessori Academy, Avli Harrington representing the Violet O. Jeffers Nichols Primary, Aliyah Hendrickson representing the Charlestown Primary, Naim Webster representing the St. James's Primary, and Kimani Brown representing the St. Thomas's Primary. The students competed in 2 rounds, the narrative and press release or news item. Avli Harrington of the VOJN Primary emerged as the Zone 1 winner.
The ongoing fogging operation will commence at 5:00 p.m. daily at all locations. A special appeal is also being made for persons with breathing difficulties to stay away from the fog.
The Zone 2 participants were Shade Bridgman of the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School, Jonathan Essien representing the Nevis Academy, Hirishikrish Srinivasan representing the Maud Cross Preparatory, Kylie Clark representing the Ivor Walters Primary, and Ayana Brown representing the Joycelyn Liebert Primary. The emerging winner was Hirishikrish Srinivasan of the Maud Cross Preparatory School.
Once upon a time, all the animals of the forest were friends. But closest of all were elegant grasshopper and handsome green toad.
The invocation was done by Education Officer Donnie Lance. The judges for the day's event were Lornette Hanley, Pandora Coverley, Dawn Jeffers, Joy Napier, and Shavane Joseph. Adina Taylor delivered the vote of thanks. Avli Harrington and Hirishikrish Srinivasan will participate in the national finals on Wednesday, September 30th, 2015 on St. Kitts. The winner of that competition will represent the Federation on Thursday, October 15th in St. Lucia to compete in the Quartz Regional Championship. Other competing countries will include St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, and host country St. Lucia. Reporting for the Nevis Newscast, I am Felicia Liebert.
Thanks, Felicia. Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris, received rousing applause from the Dominican people for his government's contribution made shortly after the island was pummeled by Tropical Storm Erica, leaving a trail of destruction and more than 30 people dead. Prime Minister Harris, along with Minister Ian Liebert, traveled to Dominica on Wednesday, September 23rd, to witness a symbolic handing over ceremony of 300 Petra Casas by President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, the Venezuelan government's donation to help the displaced people of Dominica. In his address at the ceremony, Prime Minister of Dominica Roosevelt Scarlett lauded St. Kitts and Nevis for its generous contribution. He recognized the extraordinary generosity of the Prime Minister and people of St. Kitts and Nevis, who in a matter of days after the storm made a commitment of $1 million EC to Dominica, Prime Minister Skerritt said to the cheers of the crowd gathered at the Douglas Charles Airport. Prime Minister Harris said his heart was broken to see the destruction caused by Tropical Storm Erica, and that St. Kitts and Nevis was moved to render assistance to its neighbor with whom it shares a close relationship. He underscored the point that there are many Dominican nationals living and working in St. Kitts and Nevis. That's it for tonight's edition of the Nevis Newscast. I am Bronte Swanston Hendrickson. Thank you for viewing. Good night.